Hey guys, it's Lyoko Sector here. This is my third time recording this video because I just realized not a few moments ago that my mic was not recording, and I had already gotten about halfway into recording this video before I realized that. So I'm an idiot and my career is going swimmingly. But lesson to be learned in the YouTube video content creation career. So just to kind of start all over from where I was at before, I realized that my mic was not turned on. We're talking about the Switch 2. I was going to play some Left 4 Dead 2 at first, but I decided that with the recent announcements of the Nintendo Switch 2 and the controversy surrounding all that, I figured I'd make a video and talk about that a little bit because it seems like a pretty hot topic and maybe that'll give me a couple extra views for the video. So let's jump right into it. So Nintendo Switch 2, it exists, it's a thing, and it's coming out June 5th, 2025 this year. So that's going to be exciting. And it seemed like during the direct, there was a lot of positivity going on. Nintendo showed off a lot of great first party games, a lot of great third party games. It looked perfect. And then Nintendo had to go and screw it all up by being greedy and anti consumer and all those other great things. Not so great things. Um, let's start out with the console price. Well, I guess full disclosure before we go on, I was an avid Nintendo Switch 1 user. I had the original Nintendo Switch, the revision first party Switch, and then the Switch OLED. I had those. So I've had Nintendo Switch pretty much since the launch of it. And it was a really great console. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was really awesome, really revolutionary. I love that the little controllers just pop off and you can use them as little controllers for games. And the dual hybrid console nature, I think, was very, very well executed. And I was really excited for the Switch 2. I think we can all agree that the biggest negative of the original Switch was how underpowered it was, how certain games seemed to struggle to run, and the optimization of some games wasn't that great utilizing the hardware. There were certainly a lot of games that took advantage of the hardware and were very well optimized and ran well, but there were certainly their fair share of games that didn't run well on the Switch. So probably the biggest thing that I was looking forward to in the Switch 2 was the 1080p screen, the better hardware, more powerful hardware, and better battery life. I'd say were my three big things on there. That was four fingers, but my three big things. Um, so I was looking forward to the Switch 2. And when I saw the directs, I was pretty excited at the beginning, but as the presentation went on, things just slowly over time got less and less interesting, and I kind of got burned out by the end of it, honestly, after certain announcements of things and stuff like that. And then it only got worse after I found out the price shortly after. So yeah, let's get into it. So topic one that I wanted to discuss was the price of the console. $449.99. Basically 450. I think the price is okay. I think the price of the console is fair, but I don't think that everyone wanted it to be 450. I think everyone, including myself, wanted it to be $400. I think that would have been the perfect sweet spot for the console, and I don't think anyone would have had any issues paying $400 for it. Now, I'm not an expert on hardware or hardware price or estimated pricing of components and all that kind of stuff, so I can't say if that's a fair value. But given that there's a Japanese-only version of the Switch 2, which when converted to US currency is roughly around like 320 US dollars, to go from 320 to 450, all on the difference of like a locked language version, kind of shows you how much Nintendo is kind of raising the price of the console, and I don't think a lot of people are happy about that. I definitely think they could have done 400. I mean, Nintendo is a software company, if you think about it, majority of the time. And while they could they could take a hit on the price of the console. They could take a loss on the console and make it up with their games. And a little bit later in this video, they probably could have. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But 450, it's all right. It's okay, but definitely not the price that everyone was hoping it would be. And definitely just one of those little things that just kind of, adds up over time. But continuing on, game prices. Nintendo's flagship game, Mario Kart World, that's going to be launching with the Switch 2, is priced at $80. Um, $80 is a lot for games, and I don't even think we got used to the $70 price point yet. Games like NBA 2K and Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom um, kind of already upset a lot of people at the $70 price tag. Full disclosure, I bought Tears of the Kingdom at $70, and I'll talk a little bit about that later, but I didn't even finish Tears of the Kingdom. So, in my opinion, it definitely wasn't worth the $70 price point. But Nintendo's essentially opened Pandora's box with the Switch 2 by announcing Mario Kart World at $80. They've opened the floodgates and given other video game publishers basically the opportunity to charge their games at $80, which is not going to be good for the consumer or for players, in my opinion, whatsoever. Um, unless Mario Kart World is the GTA 6 of Nintendo games, which I highly doubt it's not going to be. Um, I don't think there's anything that could justify the $80 price tag unless it was like a case where it's like all future content and DLC will be completely free. I think they could definitely save a lot of goodwill if they mentioned that, but then that doesn't necessarily work for Nintendo in terms of their greediness and wanting to make as much money from the player as possible. And not to mention the region pricing with like Canada and other countries, with it costing even more than when converting US dollars over. Definitely not a good thing for Nintendo, a bad choice, and probably is the catalyst for a lot of discourse on the Nintendo Switch 2 right now. And just the fact that games like, Donkey Kong Bonanza, and other games are priced less than Mario Kart World. So it's like, and they just recently came out an interview with Doug Bowser, one of the big head honchos at Nintendo, and he said it's variable pricing. And he's like, it doesn't set a benchmark, something along the lines of that. And it's like, well, it kind of sets a benchmark if you price Mario Kart World at $80, but then Donkey Kong Bonanza at $70, and then subsequently any other game below that. You're kind of setting a benchmark with that. But I mean, that's news. Maybe I'll talk about it later in another video, but I don't want to talk too much about the more recent stuff. But then moving on to something I didn't enjoy, game chat. Now, on the surface level, game chat sounds like a really great feature. I definitely was excited for that. The social features, being able to audio chat, video chat with the camera accessory, and then also being able to screen share. That was a surprise. I didn't expect them to give us the ability to do that, but they did. And overall, I think game chat is a really nice improvement and a nice addition to the Switch 2, and I was really hyped and excited for that. Until they told us that we needed a Nintendo Switch Online subscription in order to use that feature. Now, I've never been a big fan of subscription services in general. I'm very much a fan of paying for a product and owning that product and not having to rely on online servers or any kind of recurring revenue stream to use that service or that product. Um, and yet here we are. It's going to be required. Now, I think Nintendo knows that that's going to irk a lot of people, so they are giving it to everyone for free for a whole year till like March or something, I think. Just so they could get everyone hooked onto using the service, and then they just rip it right out of people's hands, and then they're like, oh, you want to chat with your friends still, buy a Nintendo Switch Online subscription. Now, granted, you could argue that people who are going to be using game chat a lot are probably going to be playing online with a lot of their friends, and so they're already going to have a Nintendo Switch Online subscription. But it's the principle, in my opinion, and the consumer friendliness of it, or unfriendliness of it in this case. I don't even think Xbox and PlayStation charge for game chat features. And being an avid PC gamer such as myself, I've already grown used to not having to pay for online gameplay, multiplayer services, or for chat features. Everyone calls game chat Discord on Nintendo Switch, Nintendo's version of Discord. And you don't pay for Discord. You can pay for like the extra features and stuff like that, but you don't have to pay to use the actual service. And I think that was a really big misstep by Nintendo, and a missed opportunity to get a lot of people into their ecosystem get a lot of people communicating and chatting through Nintendo's game chat service, and then just like overall bringing a positive vibe to Nintendo and kind of like interconnecting that community together. Now I think they're just going to kind of like, disconnect a lot of people because you're going to have people that don't want to pay for the online service, and you're going to have people who will pay online, and those who are going to pay online are going to get to use the chat service, whereas the other people who don't pay for it can't use it. And I think it's a little rhetorical to have a dedicated button on a console, the C button, and to not be able to use that in a year after the Switch 2 launches is just not a good impression for me. And that was kind of when they first announced that, that's kind of when I kind of saw the cracks forming during the direct. It was like, oh, I had to pay online to use game chat. Well, that's a bummer. I'm definitely not going to do that. Um, anyways, moving on. Nintendo Switch Online in general, I'm not really a big fan of. Stuff like cloud saves and all that kind of stuff I feel like should be free. The whole game console emulators and stuff like that, I'm very much a fan of, owning my games that I purchase. I know on PC we don't really own our games, but I mean Steam is my main platform for gaming on PC, and I don't think they're going to go away anytime soon, and they seem to be the most consumer friendly out of any PC platform. Um, so yeah, it does kind of sound like me being a hypocrite saying that, but at the same time, I mean, I would like any opportunity to pay and own my games and download them and keep them on my console. So as long as I keep my console intact, I can still play my games regardless of if the service discontinues in the future. Um, and so just, GameCube games, cool if you buy the expansion pack. Um, at least I think it's on the expansion pack, but I'm not 100% certain. But I mean, GameCube games, cool. I love the GameCube. I was a really big fan of it. Um, but again, I like buying and owning my games at least as much as I can. So that doesn't really appeal to me. Um, and then like the expansion packs in general, I mean, you can get the expansion pack for Animal Crossing and Splatoon for free if you buy the expansion pack version of Nintendo Switch Online, but like other games you don't get the expansion packs for. So I think that's definitely something that they can improve. And if it was a case where it was like, oh, you got all the expansion packs for any games for free, I definitely think that would sweeten the deal a little bit more for me, even though I'm not a fan of subscriptions in general. But yeah, just trying to add more stuff to Nintendo Switch Online to justify it, and I'm not really a big fan of it. A lot of this stuff they could offer to the consumer to just buy outright or use outright and not have to pay for a subscription service to use. But that's Nintendo. They've gotten greedy and very anti-consumer, and they're just trying to tackle on more excuses to force you to buy it and pay for it. And the next topic I want to talk about is the tariffs. A lot of people are very upset at the current president of the US for enacting those tariffs. I said may get political on this channel. I may not. Definitely something I'd be interested in talking about, just kind of to just start that conversation and talk about things a little bit. But at the end of the day, regardless of the tariffs that are in place by the US to other countries, it is not supposed to push the costs onto the consumer. Tariffs inherently do not push the cost onto the consumer. Tariffs are extra costs for the company or the nation that they are imposed on. So Nintendo does not have to put the cost of the tariffs onto the consumer, nor does any other country or nation. It is the decision of the country or nation to take the easy way out and push those costs onto the consumer. Because Nintendo and other companies like Apple and Nike and all that, like they make millions, if not billions of dollars with their products. So in my personal opinion, they can afford a couple extra tariff costs. They shouldn't have to push those costs onto the consumer, and neither should Nintendo. Nintendo could easily take a loss on the console and the games and the tariffs and still make a profit. They've been expanding, doing theme parks and movies and all that kind of other stuff. They can afford the extra cost of the tariffs. So I think the argument that the tariffs are to blame is only half of the problem. Yes, the tariffs are inherently being a cause of that, but Nintendo could very much eat that cost and make the consumer-friendly choice and not push it onto the consumer, yet here they are. And you know very, very much damn well that Nintendo has, um, adjusted the pricing of everything based off the tariffs already ahead of time. They knew about the tariffs way before they announced the Switch 2 and showed the direct and all that kind of stuff. They knew, and they even took preemptive steps to move away from China, manufacturing from China to Vietnam in order to account for the tariffs. And even still in that, I still believe that they raised the prices of the console and the games in anticipation for the tariffs. And now they just got an opportunity and an excuse to raise prices even more because of the new tariffs that were announced on places like Vietnam and so forth. So I definitely believe that they knew ahead of time, and it's just another excuse for them to raise the price. And I very much worry about the price of the console and the games going forward. As far as we know, it's just the console that they're reevaluating the price on. So the games might stay the same, but I mean, as we've talked about, $80 for games is just not something that me or a lot of people want to be a normal thing in the gaming industry. And I very much believe that Nintendo could definitely charge a lot less and still be profitable in this, but they're just being greedy. They've gotten complacent and greedy, and they're just taking advantage of us more and more. They've seen how much we've paid for their games, and they're just trying to take advantage as much as they can. And it really is a shame because I've been a big fan of Nintendo for a long time. I've loved a lot of their games and their consoles, and it's just a shame to see them fall, just like a lot of other AAA developers and such. Um, Hopefully, they can right their wrongs and things can get better. Um, One last topic I wanted to talk about in regards to the Switch 2 is paid upgrade packs. One of my biggest issues, and like I was talking about earlier with Tears of the Kingdom, I did not get past the tutorial area in Tears of the Kingdom. I could not take it. I could not stand it. Every time I would use Ultra Hand or be in certain areas of the game, the frame rate would just drop below 30 FPS. I can accept 30 FPS if it is smooth and consistent 30 FPS, but when it dips below 30 FPS, it just breaks my immersion. I just can't stay immersed in the game. So I did not get past the tutorial in Tears of the Kingdom. I don't doubt that it's a great game, but I could not get past that part because of the abysmal performance of the Switch 1. Now, the Switch 2, I was really excited and looking forward to because of the upgraded hardware, more powerful hardware, and the benefits that I would get to see that in my Nintendo Switch 1 games. But now it's kind of run into a whole nother issue with compatibility and upgrade packs and Nintendo Switch upgrade packs and Nintendo Switch 2 editions of Nintendo Switch 1 games. It's all a big mess in its own right. But the basis that I want to talk about is having to pay for upgrade packs for Nintendo Switch 1 games. And then subsequently Nintendo Switch 2 editions of Switch 1 games. I definitely think that is a huge misplay. Um, I think it is absolutely ridiculous and abhorrent to have to pay to get better performance on my game that Nintendo didn't optimize properly. You know, I was looking forward to the Switch 2. I was like, "Oh, this is perfect. I get to play Tears of the Kingdom finally and enjoy it for the amazing game that it is, with the better performance that I would have expected it to have on the original Switch 1." Only to find out that I have to pay to unlock those better resolutions and frame rates, and that it's just a ridiculous idea in my mind. To charge someone money to upgrade their version to the Switch 2 edition of the game just to unlock better resolution and frame rates, I think is a huge misstep and a missed opportunity for some exceptionally goodwill and some pro-consumer choices. But like I said, Nintendo, they've gotten complacent and greedy, and they're just like, "Oh, well, we're gonna have you pay to get the better performance." And just like the packaging and all that kind of stuff with the big red bar at the top and the text at the bottom, that's like, "This includes the Nintendo Switch 1 version, plus the upgrade pack in this Nintendo Switch 2 edition." That and like physical games and the download only cartridges. That was the biggest issue I had with a lot of physical games on Nintendo Switch 1 was I'd be in the store like Best Buy or GameStop or Walmart or something like that, and I'm looking at all the Nintendo games, And I'm like, oh, cool, Mortal Kombat 11. That'd be a really cool game to have on the Switch because I've always preferred playing Mortal Kombat on a handheld as opposed to on PC with keyboard and mouse. And then I look at the case on the box and it says download only. Literally just comes with a key in the box to download the game digitally. And or like the cartridge only has the key and the majority of the game is downloaded onto the console. I'm not a big fan of that as an old school kind of guy and own the physical games that I purchase kind of guy. I'm definitely not a big fan of a box containing a code to then have to download a game for. I mean, what happens when the Nintendo Switch 2 servers go offline in the future? Excuse me. What happens when they go down, just like the Nintendo Wii Shop and the 3DS eShop? What do I do for my downloads then? I mean, it's just one of those situations that's not consumer friendly. It's not video game preservation friendly, and just another misstep by Nintendo. And stuff like Bravely Default, I think it was called, is getting like a remastered version for the Switch 2. And the game is itself is like 13 some gigabytes or whatever. And the physical copy of that for Switch 2 is a digital only download. Like, why? Why couldn't they just put the game on the cartridge? Like, I don't know if it's a Nintendo thing or if it's a developer thing. Then you've got like Cyberpunk 2077 that is going to have a physical release for the Switch 2, and the whole game is going to be on the cartridge. It's like 65 gigabytes or something like that, and it's just going to be on there. So it's like, why is that the case? But I don't know what exactly it is. I think I heard somewhere where it's like the cartridges have a limited amount of space, but it's like they could pay Nintendo extra to get the bigger cartridges that could hold more. And I guess some developers just don't want to bother with that. Whatever the case may be, I'm still not a fan of it. Very anti-consumer and anti-video game preservation, in my opinion. And hopefully that's not for a lot of games in the life cycle of the Switch too. So just kind of all of that, everything. I mean, one or two of these things might have not been an issue, but just the fact that a lot of these things, I think is definitely a reason why the Nintendo Switch 2 is having such controversy and heated discourse and discussion, and the bootlickers and defenders of Nintendo, and people trying to get political with things and blame other parties rather than blaming Nintendo. It's just a whole mess all over the place. And from the rumors we've heard, Nintendo is like panicking in the background, and rightfully so. And I definitely hope that they change course and right their wrongs and mistakes. Oh, Nintendo Switch Welcome Tour. Essentially a experience that shows off the hardware of the Switch 2, gives you a whole bunch of info and trivia about it, a couple of tech demos and games and all that kind of stuff for this game. When I saw that, I was like, oh shit, that's really cool. It's just like Wii Sports, you know? And then it's like, oh, it's a paid only digital only game. So it's like, okay, so I have to pay to get the tech demo experience about the console that I'm paying $450 for. Yeah, that's a really great choice. Yeah, good luck with that, Nintendo. We found out recently, I think, that the price was like $10, which poses two questions, right? Because if it's $10, you're like, geez, I have to pay $10 for the Nintendo Switch tech demo experience and find out more about the console that I'm buying. Instruction manual, demo game, or whatever. But on the other hand, it's like, well, if it was $10, why wouldn't they just include it in the console, right? If it was included in the price of the console, like even if we didn't know it was $10, if they just threw that in there with the Switch 2, that might have sweetened the deal a little bit for some people and be like, oh yeah, well the game's $450, but you're getting a whole experience game inside it. And sure, it might not be a huge game like Mario Kart or Donkey Kong or something like that, but I mean, it would definitely sweeten the deal a little bit, and maybe it would have helped Nintendo in the case of justifying the price for the console. But they didn't. They just had to be greedy and complacent and just, had to get that sweet, sweet revenue and money from us gamers, even though they charge an arm and a leg for us already. And so I think that was another big mistake. And when I heard that on the direct, I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm never going to get that. Um, Definitely a huge misstep there from Nintendo. And so yeah, Nintendo Switch 2, I'm excited for it. Definitely not a fan of a lot of stuff they're doing about it. I'm still probably gonna get it just to because I sold my original Nintendo Switch 1, well, not my original Nintendo Switch, but I sold my Nintendo Switch OLED in anticipation for the Switch 2, which I've been without my Switch 1 for about a year or so I haven't been able to enjoy any of the games that I kept from that. Because I thought it was going to come out and be announced a lot sooner, but here we are. So Switch 2 is coming out. I'm probably still going to get it. Um, Probably not going to get the Mario Kart World bundle because one, I'm upset at the pricing of it, but two, because I'm not a fan of digital games for the most part. So yeah, I'm excited for it. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Talk about how you feel about the pricing or the paid upgrades or Nintendo Switch Online or Game Chat or any of that, whatever it is. Leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed the video. And yeah, this is Lyoko Sector, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.